Hi, welcome to Authentically ADHD with your host, me, Carmen, where we talk all things ADHD, the good, the bad, the ugly. I give you tips and tricks, and I love talking about it. I'm an early childhood special education teacher. I am a certified life coach, and I'm a fellow ADHDer. We have a lot of topics that we can overshare and talk about. So let's get started. Hi, friend. Welcome back to the podcast. I am kind of distracted, which isn't surprising considering, I have ADHD, like you, I'm sure, or ADHD tendencies. And today we are talking about why do we always feel so behind? Why do we always feel like no matter how much we get done in a day, no matter how much we do, no matter how many things we cross off of our to-do list, that there's still this huge mountain of things to get done looming in front of us like a gigantic blob of ick. Let's get into it. Why is it so hard, and ways to cope? Are you ready? Let's get started. I'm going to start off this episode a little differently than I have in the past, because I want to. And I want to start by asking you a question. I want you to kind of think about your answer. I'll give you a little space to answer. And you can also pause it to think about your answer. So what do you do when you feel like you're behind? Giving you a little space, a little time. Feel free to pause, think about it. What do you do when you feel like you're behind? Most ADHDers have a pattern, and I've observed this through my peers who have ADHD, my clients, and through the 15 self-help books I've read about ADHD by doctors, therapists, and all the above, is that we notice we're behind on something. So, I don't know. Let's just put in one of my examples, shall we? We notice we're super behind on like paperwork, and you realize you have this like huge pile. It's not organized. There's stuff that's personal. There's bills in there. There's work paperwork. There's stuff that should have been filed, stuff that you forgot about, and you feel behind, and you immediately do what? I start beating myself up, like shaming myself, like, what are you doing? Like, this is, a lot of the times what I used to do is shame myself. Like, how could you do that? What are you doing? Why do you let this happen all the time? You know better than this, blah, blah, blah. Our mean girl brains can just literally, they can beat us up, and they're mean. That's why they're called mean girls. And then I would spin, I would scroll, I would avoid, I would procrastinate, I would use procrastivity tasks. Like, it was so important to deep clean my bedroom, or, dust the walls and the floor everywhere. I don't even know. All of the things besides the thing that I was supposed to be doing. And this is because the actions and results that we're going to take from the feeling of shame and overwhelm and guilt is to procrastinate, avoid, and hide. My coach taught me this. My coach, Kristen Carter, taught me this. And I'm going to say it again because I resonate with it, and I hope that you do too. So when you are feeling shame, overwhelm, guilt, you will most likely procrastinate, avoid, and hide. You'll do anything to basically put off the work. You'll put it out of sight. You will trash talk yourself. I'm always going to be this way. I'm so disorganized. Why can't I ever get it together? How could a person lose so many things? Why didn't I write that down? I know my memory sucks. So I want to tell you something that you're not going to like. I'm going to slow down here because you're really not going to like it. You might be guessing right now. Do you know what I'm going to say? Yeah, I'm behind is it's just a thought. It's not a fact. No, it is. I promise you, I'm behind is just a thought. And I know your brain is bringing up all the evidence right now of how you are actually behind. And it can be proven in a court of law that you are behind in whatever it is that you put in that line. I am behind with blank. And you can give me all of this evidence, but behind is just a thought. Because how can you prove it? Who defines behind? Who defines what that means? So, we can decide what behind means. We can decide that we're not behind, that we're just where we are. Because if behind is, if the thought of behind is giving you, is having, driving feelings of guilt and shame, then you're equating behind with bad. And why? Why are you doing that? Like, why? Please stop. Did someone of significance tell you this? Or are you judging the reality of where you are? Like, I should be further along. Are you defining behind as something that's way higher of a standard that you can't reach? That it's like bad and that you should feel shame and guilt because you aren't where you want to be with whatever it is that you're behind in? If that's you, I invite you to allow the emotion. Validate it. It makes sense. Seriously, we have ADHD. It makes sense that we feel behind. It really does. Our brains and hearts and nervous systems are connected way more than a neurotypical brain. Our nervous systems, they are the things that feel before we even know we have a thought, all right? So it's okay. It makes sense. It's safe to feel this feeling. And remember, our feelings, they fuel our actions. As Dr. Hollowell puts it, we have a Ferrari brain with bicycle brakes. I promise the more practice that you go through and the more things that you do to grow your brain with its plasticity, you can develop brakes that can slow the Ferrari better than the bicycle brakes. But we also have brains that lack the do, accomplish, reward dopamine. So following through on tasks is like just as difficult as starting them. The intrinsic motivation that like neurotypicals have in their brains that gives them that sense of accomplishment after doing the dishes or laundry or finishing a large project, we don't have that. Our brains just don't have as much of the chemicals needed to receive that motivation. So, like, it doesn't really feel worth it. It feels like, why bother? And a lot of times we have to create that motivation outside ourselves, and without proper guidance, it's not always healthy ways to get the dopamine. And without any guidance, they sometimes can even distract us away from the task at hand because we want to avoid the uncomfortable emotions that were coming along with the never-ending to-do list that is life. Hi friend, would you do me a really quick favor and scroll up to the top of your podcast app and rate and review the show for me? I would really appreciate it. If not, at least maybe share it with a friend or somebody you think could benefit from it. That way I can make sure I'm helping as many people as humanly possible. Thank you for listening, rating, and reviewing to the show. Some other reasons why ADHDers also always feel behind is because we set our expectations way too high and then we can't reach them, and then we go into a shame spiral. I'll also invite you to stop doing that. It doesn't serve us in any way at all. We also have time blindness, which sucks. We have a really hard time remembering the past in order to predict the future. It's one of those things. We have to time everything we do, and like nothing ever just takes 2 minutes. Like, never tell somebody you'll be just 2 minutes, because it's at least going to be 20. Like, I don't even know, but I've been timing and trying to time block my time for probably 2 years now. And I, when I follow my schedule for one day, I'm like, whoa, like I am on top of the world, because, I was supposed to be recording this like 2 hours ago. So like, relatable, right? Like, it's not like it's not ever going to be a struggle, right? So let's talk about some ways that we can combat feeling behind. First of all, let's redefine what behind means and just define reality as, this is where we are. Now, what am I going to do? Because the thing that we as ADHDers forget, because, we have a terrible memory, is that we forget, what we're talking about, like I literally just did in the middle of this sentence. But we also forget that when we get started on a task, we're more likely to keep going. So just doing the first step is great. So asking yourself, okay, like telling yourself, all right, this is reality, after you've felt your feeling and you process and you're like, all right, I'm not going to feel shame about this. This is reality. This is what's happening. Now what? And then do like the smallest step towards whatever the goal is. And likely or not, you will either hyper focus into it and get a bunch of it done, or you'll get some of it done and you will feel a lot better. Another like really healthy dopamine thing, like dopamine hack, I guess if you would call it, that I use a lot, especially in the morning, is dancing. I just put my headphones in and I just like dance around in my basement like nobody's watching. I mean, like, check out my TikTok or my Instagram and you will see some fun dancing videos. I mean, they help me. Music ups the dopamine in our brains, and so does that physical activity. And for me, it gets me going to want to work out, which also I know helps my brain work at its best. So find out what works best for your brain. I invite you to listen to this episode a few times and write down some answers to some of these questions, like what motivates you and what healthy coping skills can you use to help you get started on tasks that you hate, like, paperwork and things like that. And I am always, always, always loving to see your progress and anything that you want to share or would like to hear about. Just share my episode on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere really, or you can email me anything, really, any way you want to get in contact with me, it's all in the show notes below. This all I have for now, my friends. Stay authentic, and we will talk soon.